How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today we're going to be continuing the Alfred Hitchcock series of reviews, especially with Halloween coming around the corner, or at least October around the corner. Psycho. This is the slasher thriller horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, Janet Leigh, and yes, she is Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, playing as the character Marion Crane, and Vera Miles playing her sister Lila. And this is the film that seemed controversial at the time. Paramount didn't want to give Alfred Hitchcock his usual budget for this movie, and Hitchcock decided to film this in black and white. Unlike his more recent movies that had come out before that, such as Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, North by Northwest, and Vertigo, which were all in color. So we kind of went back to the classic black and white that we were used to with Alfred Hitchcock for many years. And this obviously has some themes in it that were seen as not part of the time, I would say. Scenes that some uncomfortable themes in this movie. I'm obviously talking about the infamous shower scene, which we will get into, um, and the way that Mother, Norman Bates' mom, is killing people, or we assume. By the way, I always forget to say this when it comes to older movie reviews, so I apologize, but there are going to be spoilers, particularly in this movie, because I feel like when reviewing Psycho, you have to go deep into this movie. So if you haven't seen Psycho, there are going to be major spoilers. Hopefully, you have seen Psycho. This movie is over 60 years old. If you've seen it or don't mind spoilers, then feel free to stick around. So when it comes to Psycho, this is a movie that I feel like it has two protagonists, one for each half of the movie. The first half is focusing on the character Marion, played by Janet Leigh, and she takes $40,000 from her boss who trusted her to put it in the bank, and she's running off to California because she has a lot of debt. She wants to settle down with this guy that she's been seeing, Sam, and she's driving off. And right here, you kind of feel like you're getting the typical, regular Alfred Hitchcock beginning of a movie where a character does something, then people are suspicious of that character's behavior. They're being tracked down. You got like a mystery going on. Is she gonna get caught? Is she gonna make it to her destination? And you've obviously got her driving off, and you've got Bernard Herrmann's thrilling score, and this is just like the tip of it as she's driving off, and she comes across this place called the Bates Motel, and this is a place that doesn't get a lot of visitors. Um, on the um, on the hill behind it is this really creepy looking big house. You see a woman looking out it, and the Bates Motel is ran by someone named Norman Bates. And Norman Bates doesn't start off as a typical like murder suspect. He seems very charming, seems very friendly, he's very talkative, but he's also scared of his mother. And mother, when you hear mother talk, she's very rude, she's very snotty and cruel, and Kat's kind of turns Norman off, and we kind of wonder, why doesn't Norman do something for this woman? You feel bad for Norman the first time you meet him, especially if you're watching this movie for the first time and don't know anything about Norman Bates. But you kind of start to suspect a little bit about Norman Bates' behavior when Marion suggests putting her in a home. But you don't really think much of it at first because this is kind of a normal thing to do when it comes to approaching family members and their situation. No matter how much a family member probably would need a home or a new way of living, some family members just don't do that because they love them too much. Maybe they don't think that's the best solution no matter how bad things are getting. So you kind of relate to Norman at first because he doesn't want to put his mom in a home. And then, of course, we got the infamous shower scene. And I love how this scene is getting built up because it starts off very calmly. Marion's just getting ready to go to bed. She just wants to leave early in the morning. She's done with her dinner. Then she's getting ready for a shower. Before all this is happening, before the shower stuff is happening, she's writing down stuff on a little piece of paper, and then she tears it up and she's flushing it down the toilet. Now, this is going to be very important for later on in the movie, and we need to remember that she was running away because she took a lot of money. So it's obviously this is obviously in relation to the money that she stole. So as she's showering, we see behind a shadow of the door opening, we see a shadowy figure approaching. That's where we get the infamous shower slashing scene. And this is a scene that has even got its own documentary alone. And then we see Bernard Herrmann's score as Norman Bates' mom, or who we assume is Norman Bates' mom, killing Marion. And then we see Norman discovers it and he's horrified. But then the way he's cleaning up the mess that his mom created kind of starts to get you wondering if this is a common occurrence. And this is why people aren't going to this motel. Because he seems all too well how to hide a murder and how to like clean up a murder. So you're starting to suspect Norman Bates and how often this is a normal thing at the Bates Motel. So then we get into the second half of the movie where we focus in on Marion's sister, Lila, and how her and Sam, the guy that Marion was dating, and how they're trying to figure out what is happening, where she is, and they hire a private investigator to go look into this. And then he later becomes a victim. But this is where we start to suspect more with Norman Bates, how he's answering the private investigator's questions, how he doesn't want the private investigator to ask him other questions. And this is where Anthony Perkins does such a phenomenal job portraying this character, because he starts off as a likable, charming person, but then you're starting to suspect his behavior. His behavior starts to shift, and he's very protective of people not talking to his mom. And then this is where we get the second death. The private investigator, once again, killed by mother, falls down the stairs. And then we start to suspect that things aren't what they seem. A sheriff tells Sam and Lila that Norman Bates' mom has been dead for 10 years. And she committed murder-suicide with her lover at the time. So we're starting to wonder what's happening here. Is Norman Bates' mom really dead? If not, who is that? Could that be like a relative? Could this be someone that maybe Norman Bates is dating, pretending to be his mom? We really don't know what is going on here. This mystery is getting more intense. And then Sam and Lila investigate themselves. And this is where I love Alfred Hitchcock's style, because it's the little details that Alfred Hitchcock puts into his movies that really play a huge role. Remember, this all began when Lila's sister stole $40,000 and was running off with it. That paper that she was writing on, she didn't flush it all down the toilet. They found one piece of paper. It was something that Norman Bates didn't realize when he was cleaning up the murder mess. So Lila goes up to the mansion, and we see that Norman is obviously hiding mother, and it seems like something is amiss, because the bed that Norman Bates' mom was laying in, you see that the way the bed how the mattress is, the mattress cushion, someone's been laying in that bed for a long, long time. It's not like someone's just been laying on for 24 hours and all of a sudden is getting out of there to commit murder. This person's been laying in this bed for a while. And then we discover, and this is to me what the most chilling scene of this entire movie. It's not the murders that are happening that we're seeing. It's the fact that Norman Bates' mom's body is discovered in the basement. And the person that's really committing all these murders is Norman Bates dressing up as his mom. And you find out later in the movie that Norman Bates has an alternate personality, the mother personality. And that was really Norman Bates that killed his mom and her lover out of jealousy. And to me, that's a twist that I didn't see coming the first time I watched this movie. I remember the first time I watched this movie, it was around the same time I watched Vertical for the first time, 6, 7 years ago. And to me, the first time I watched this movie, that was the most chilling thing. That mother has been dead all this time. The sheriff was right. And I'll be honest, when at the end, when like the psychiatrist is talking about what's really happening, that Norman Bates wasn't even aware of the money from the beginning of this movie, and that's why he didn't kill Marion off. And you find out that he's killed a couple of other people before he killed the two people that he killed in this movie. It's very chilling. And this is the movie that the slasher genre owes a lot to, because this was the first slasher movie, or one of the first slasher movies to have come out. And at the time, this was seen as a controversial movie because of that. But if you compare this to movies such as Halloween, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, and all the many sequels to those movies, Psycho's pretty tame compared to that. You only see two killings happening, and they're not bloody or gory compared to the killings in those movies. This is more so about the story, more so about Norman Bates and how crazy this character really is, particularly at the end when we see the mother personality finally take over and we see that sinister smile at the end from Norman Bates. And the thing is, a lot's happening in a movie that's less than 2 hours. This is a hour and 49-minute movie. Like I said, this is a movie where there's two protagonists, one in the first half and one in the second half. You have the story in the first half where someone's running off with a ton of money. They stop at a motel and they get murdered while taking a shower. And then the second half, you have someone investigating, trying to figure out where their sister went, and the mystery surrounding Norman Bates in the Bates Motel and Norman Bates's mom. And nothing ever feels rushed. Nothing ever feels slow. The build up to Norman Bates revealing to be a psycho, it's a slow buildup, but it doesn't drag on. It's not a drag on. It's a nice slow buildup because, again, as I said before, when we are first introduced to this character, he seems like a normal, likable person that you feel sorry for because of how his mom talks to him, how rude and cruel she seems. But as it builds up, as you see that he seems all too familiar with cleaning up murders, how he is trying to prevent private investigators from talking to his mom, how he is checking to make sure that murder evidence is hidden perfectly. We're starting to realize that this isn't just a person that's hiding the crimes of a loved one. He is involved in this in some way, and it turns out that he really did do this with an alternate personality. To me, Psycho is one of the most chilling movies of all time. And to me, a movie, it the doesn't need to be ultra violent, like ultra gruesome to be chilling. The themes about the movie, the motivations or bizarre craziness, not even motivations, the craziness of one character, how psychotic one character is, that is chilling. The fact that Norman Bates's mom's body was still living in this house even though she is dead is chilling. To me, Psycho is probably one of the best movies ever made, one of Alfred Hitchcock's best movies. And it was a risk at that time that has paid off. That if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have gotten so many other slasher movies or so many movies that had similar themes. Psycho is in my opinion, the most influential of Alfred Hitchcock's movies because of the sequels, the remakes, that have came out involving this movie, including a television series called The Bates, based on the Bates Motel in a modern day setting. Psycho is a phenomenal movie, and we owe a lot to this. If you are a fan of the slasher genre, I'm going to give Psycho an A plus. Go watch this movie if you haven't already. It is truly one of the best movies ever made. And I love the fact that this was filmed in black and white because I've always seen this movie in black and white. And if they ever tried to make this movie in color, I don't think they ever would. I don't think they would even attempt to because this was shot in black and white. I think it would take me out of the experience. And I love that it was filmed in black and white. It actually adds more chill to it, especially when you see the shadows, like the shadow of Norman Bates dressed as his mom coming to the shower, or just really chilling. But overall, this movie is phenomenal. And I know some people might say a couple things might not have aged all that well, but for 1960, it works very well. And honestly, even in 2023, I would say it works well. Maybe the whole exposition at the end, I will admit, maybe like just like revealing all of it at the end could, some people might think, felt a bit forced, but honestly, I don't think it even felt forced. I think it was a nice way to just like wrap up, try to understand what is truly wrong with Norman Bates. So I don't even have a problem with that. But what are your thoughts on Psycho? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And what is your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie? I know I've asked this many times. So here's a better question. What is one of your favorite slasher movies of all time? Let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share us with someone that loves Alfred Hitchcock movies, that is a fan of the slasher horror genre. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.